Chapter 1. The Genesis of the Blocks. To understand the world we tread upon, we must first look at its very fabric. It is a world defined by perfect geometry, where every mountain, every river, and every deep cavern is made of uniform, cubic blocks. To a casual observer, this might seem simple, even unnatural, but to the scholar, this blocky structure is a brilliant and highly organized system of matter. It is a universe where gravity, chemistry, and biology operate under strict, beautiful laws. Every element is perfectly contained. Earth, stone, wood, and water exist as solid units of reality, waiting to be shaped. This is not a random collection of dust, but a carefully structured masterpiece of cosmic design. At the heart of this design lies a complex structure made of three distinct dimensions. These dimensions do not exist side by side on a flat map. Instead, they represent different levels of existence, separated by invisible barriers that only the most advanced technology can cross. They are three unique environments, each with its own physical rules, its own atmosphere, and its own forms of life. Together, they form a complete ecosystem that spans from the deepest, hottest depths to the cold, silent edge of the universe. The first and most familiar of these realms is the Overworld. This is the green, breathing skin of the world. Here, a brilliant sun rises and sets in a predictable 20-minute cycle, giving energy to vast forests, deep oceans, and rolling plains. The Overworld is a place of balance. It supports a rich variety of gentle animals, from grazing sheep to busy bees, all playing their part in a grand natural cycle. Water flows freely here, carving paths through the stone and nurturing the soil. Yet, even in this peaceful realm, there is a constant struggle. When the sun dips below the horizon, the darkness allows more dangerous, hostile forces to emerge from the shadows, reminding us that survival is never guaranteed. Deep beneath the bedrock of the Overworld, far beyond the reach of any ordinary drill, lies a completely different reality. This is the Nether, a hellish underworld of endless fire, boiling lava, and red stone. The air here is thick and suffocating, and the sky is made of burning rock rather than open air. In this harsh environment, water cannot exist. Any liquid moisture instantly vaporizes into steam upon contact with the intense heat. Yet, despite its hostile nature, the Nether is not dead. It is home to strange, fire-resistant creatures and unique plants that thrive on the heat. The very ground of the Nether is alive with a dark, restless energy, stored in the vast deposits of soul sand and glowing stone that line its cavern walls. Far away from both the warmth of the Overworld and the fires of the Nether lies the third dimension, known simply as the End. This is a cold, silent void, a dark space where gravity seems to lose its grip and time itself feels irrelevant. The End consists of massive islands of pale yellow stone, floating aimlessly in an endless, starry blackness. There is no sun, no moon, and no weather. The only features on these barren islands are towering pillars of black obsidian and the strange tall creatures that call this empty place home. It is a realm of absolute quiet, representing the final, cold boundary of the known universe. How did these three vastly different worlds come to be so interconnected? To answer this, we must look to the ancient past and to the mysterious people who once walked these lands. Scholars refer to them as the ancient builders. We do not know their names, nor do we know exactly what they looked like, but their footprints are scattered across every corner of the world. They were a highly advanced civilization of architects, engineers, and explorers who possessed an incredible understanding of the world's physical laws. They did not merely survive in nature, they reshaped it to fit their needs. The evidence of their great works is everywhere. In the deep oceans we find massive stone monuments, built with materials that could only be harvested from the sea floor. In the dry deserts and thick jungles, grand temples stand as silent monuments to their engineering skill, filled with clever traps and hidden treasures. Deep underground, They carved out endless networks of mine shafts to extract valuable metals, and constructed massive fortresses known as strongholds. These strongholds were not just defensive shelters, they were scientific laboratories, containing the complex, magical frames of the portals that connected the overworld to the end. The ancient builders were driven by a powerful desire to explore and control their environment. They were not content with just the resources of the overworld. They built massive portals of obsidian, igniting them with fire to tear open the fabric of space and step into the burning plains of the Nether. There, they built towering fortresses of dark red brick, bridges that stretched across oceans of lava, and systems to harvest the unique materials of the underworld. They were searchers, constantly pushing the limits of what was possible, seeking new energy sources and new ways to conquer death itself. But what was the force that allowed them to power their grand machines and bring their creations to life? The answer lies in a remarkable mineral found deep within the stone of the overworld, redstone. Redstone is not just a simple red dust, it is the nervous system of the world. When mined and laid out in lines, it carries a constant, invisible flow of energy. The ancient builders learned to harness this energy, using it to create automated doors, rapid-firing defense systems, and complex mechanical devices. Redstone represents the bridge between the natural world and technology, a physical spark that can transmit commands and power mechanisms across great distances. Yet, redstone was only one part of the equation. While it could power machines, it could not create true life. For that, the ancient builders had to look to a much more mysterious and spiritual force, the energy of souls. In the Nether, they discovered soul sand, a dark brown earth that seemed to trap the spiritual essence of living things. This soul energy is a powerful, blue burning force, far hotter and more volatile than regular fire. By studying this energy, the ancient builders began to understand the connection between physical matter and the spark of consciousness. They learned that life in this world is not just a biological accident, but a tangible energy that can be harvested, stored, and redirected. We see the results of this research in the various golems that still guard the ruins of the world. The iron golem, built from heavy metal blocks and animated by a carved pumpkin, is a perfect example of this artificial life. It possesses no brain or heart, yet it moves, feels, and protects the innocent with absolute loyalty. The copper golem, though now lost to history, was another attempt to combine mechanical engineering with the spark of life, using the conductive properties of copper to create helpful, button-pressing assistants. These creations show us that life in this world can be crafted, provided one has the right materials and the knowledge to channel the world's natural energies. This flow of life force is also visible in the phenomenon of experience. When creatures defeat monsters or harvest valuable minerals, they absorb tiny, glowing green spheres of light. This is experience, a pure, concentrated form of life energy. This energy can be used to bind powerful magical effects to tools, weapons, and armor through the art of enchanting. By using books, lapis lazuli, and obsidian tables, the ancients could transfer this raw life force into their equipment, making their swords sharper, their pickaxes faster, and their armor strong enough to resist the greatest dangers. It is a system where spiritual energy directly enhances physical matter. However, the great works of the ancient builders eventually came to an end, whether through a massive natural disaster, a failed experiment with soul energy, or the sudden attack of a terrible monster of their own creation. Their civilization collapsed. They vanished from the world, leaving behind only their empty cities, their decaying temples, and their silent portals. The world they left behind began to reclaim their creations. Vines grew over their stone walls, dust settled in their mines, and the creatures of the wild moved into their grand halls. Today, the world exists in a state of quiet waiting. The three dimensions remain connected by the ancient portals, and the redstone still glows with energy deep underground. The legacy of the ancient builders is written in the very soil and stone of the world, waiting for someone new to read it. As we begin our journey to study the various creatures, monsters, and biomes of this world, we must keep this history in mind. Every creature we encounter, from the simple farm animal to the most terrifying monster of the night, is a product of this grand, interconnected system. They are all part of the anatomy of the overworld, living proof of the ancient forces that first brought life to the blocks. Chapter 2. The Creeper Phenomenon. In the quiet corners of the overworld, where the canopy of old-growth forests blocks out the sun, there exists a sound that every traveller dreads. It is not a roar, nor is it the heavy step of a great beast. It is a soft, papery rustle, like dry leaves scraping across stone. In a world defined by the active struggles of life and death, this silent traveller represents a completely different kind of danger. It is the creeper, a creature that is neither fully animal nor entirely plant, but a bizarre fusion of both. To understand this quiet predator is to peer into one of the most unusual ecological mysteries of our world. For generations, explorers have wondered about the true nature of the creeper. At first glance, its pale green skin looks like a mosaic of moss and decaying vegetation. This is not mere camouflage. If you were to touch the outer skin of a creeper, you would not feel the warmth of skin or the cold scales of a reptile. Instead, you would find a dry, brittle texture. It feels exactly like a handful of dead, crunchy leaves. This plant-like exterior allows the creature to blend perfectly into the tall grass, the dark forests, and the shaded valleys of the overworld. It does not need to hide behind rocks. It simply stands still, and the world swallows it from view. Beneath this leafy skin lies a biological structure that defies easy classification. The creeper has no true skeleton of bone. Instead, its body is supported by a dense network of tough, fibrous stalks, much like the woody stems of a mature vine. These fibers give the creature its upright, rectangular shape. Its movement is powered not by complex muscle groups, but by a system of fluid-filled chambers. By shifting internal water pressure through these vertical tubes, the creeper can contract and extend its 4 short, stubby legs. This unique way of walking is incredibly efficient and, more importantly, completely silent. It allows the creature to glide over solid stone and soft soil without making a sound. But the most fascinating and terrifying aspect of the creeper is not how it moves, but what it carries inside. The hollow center of its fibrous body acts as a living storage tank for some of the most volatile substances in nature. Through its root-like feet, the creeper constantly absorbs minerals from the ground as it travels. It searches for soils rich in natural sulfur and decaying organic matter, particularly peat. Over time, the creature's internal organs filter these minerals, concentrating them into a highly unstable compound. This substance is chemically identical to gunpowder, stored within a specialized chamber made of thick, leathery tissue. This biological gunpowder is not just a byproduct of the creeper's diet, it is the core of its survival strategy. Most predators hunt to feed, using their teeth and claws to secure a meal. The creeper, however, has no mouth for eating, no claws for tearing, and no visible digestive system. It does not seem to consume other creatures for energy. Instead, it is believed that the creeper relies on photosynthesis through its green, leafy skin, supplemented by the minerals it absorbs from the soil. Its aggression toward travelers is not driven by hunger, but by a deeply instinctual need to reproduce. To understand how a self-destructive explosion can lead to reproduction, we must look at the life cycle of explosive flora. When a creeper approaches a target, its nervous system undergoes a sudden, massive surge of electrical energy. This surge is triggered by proximity to warm-blooded creatures. As the creeper closes the distance, its internal temperature spikes rapidly. This heat begins to cook the volatile peat and sulfur mixture inside its core. The pressure within its body rises at an alarming rate, forcing gases to escape through microscopic pores in its skin. This is the origin of the infamous, terrifying hiss, the sound of pressurized gas venting just seconds before detonation. The final explosion is a violent release of pressure that completely destroys the host creature. But this is not an act of simple malice. The blast shatters the creeper's fibrous body into millions of microscopic particles. Mixed in with the smoke, the sulfur, and the ash are countless tiny spores which have been developing inside the creature's core. The force of the explosion scatters these spores across a wide area, burying them deep into the newly blasted earth. The crater left behind by a creeper is not just a scar on the land, it is a fertile nursery. In the nutrient-rich, loosened soil of the crater, the spores will slowly grow, eventually rising from the dirt as young creepers. This unique reproductive cycle makes the creeper one of the most successful colonizers of the overworld. It uses the energy of its own death to clear the land, eliminate potential threats, and plant the seeds for the next generation. But this delicate chemical balance also makes the creeper highly sensitive to its environment, because its body is essentially a walking pressure vessel filled with sulfur and peat. It reacts dramatically to external electrical forces. When a thunderstorm rolls across the landscape, the air becomes thick with static electricity. If a creeper is struck by a bolt of lightning, the results are spectacular and terrifying. Instead of being destroyed by the immense heat and energy of the strike, the creeper acts like a biological lightning rod. The electrical current is absorbed by its conductive, fibrous inner structure and stored within its chemical core. This transforms the creature into a charged creeper, surrounded by a shimmering blue aura of pure electrical energy. Its internal pressure is pushed to its absolute limit. An explosion from a charged creeper is many times more powerful than a normal blast, capable of shattering solid stone and leaving massive craters in the earth. Despite their devastating power and lack of fear, creepers possess a strange and highly specific vulnerability. They are terrified of felines. The sight of a common house cat or a wild ocelot will cause an otherwise relentless creeper to turn and flee in absolute panic. For a long time, scholars found this behavior baffling. Why would a creature capable of blowing up solid walls be afraid of a small, harmless animal? The answer lies in the delicate physics of the creeper's internal chemistry. Cats and ocelots are known for their ability to purr, producing a deep, low-frequency vibration that travels easily through the ground and the air. To human ears, this purring is a soothing sound, but to the highly sensitive, pressurized body of a creeper, these vibrations are disastrous. The specific frequency of a feline's purr resonates with the volatile sulfur and peat mixture inside the creeper's core. If a creeper gets too close to a purring cat, the vibration threatens to destabilize its chemical storage chamber, causing it to detonate prematurely before it can find a proper site to spread its spores. Over thousands of years, creepers have evolved a deep, instinctual dread of this frequency, choosing to retreat rather than risk a useless, non-reproductive explosion. This relationship between the creeper and the feline is a beautiful example of the natural checks and balances of the overworld. It shows that even the most destructive forces have their limits, and that sometimes the smallest and gentlest creatures hold the key to safety. Travelers who learn to carry cats with them on their journeys are practicing an ancient form of biological defense, using the natural music of one animal to ward off the silent threat of another. The creeper remains one of the most remarkable phenomena of our world. It is a creature that blurs the line between plant and animal, using the passive chemistry of the earth to fuel a highly active, predatory lifestyle. It does not look at the world with eyes of anger or malice, but with the cold, unyielding drive of a plant seeking to spread its seeds. It is a reminder that the overworld is a place of deep, ancient mysteries, where even the grass beneath our feet can hold the power of thunder. As long as the forests grow and the rains fall, the silent rustle of the creeper will continue to echo through the wild spaces, a quiet whisper of danger in the dark. Chapter 3: The Undead Plague. The vast, silent landscapes of the overworld are not empty, but they are haunted. Beneath the rolling hills, within the deep caverns, and across the moonlit plains, we find the physical remains of a lost era. Long before the present day, a great civilization walked these lands, They constructed massive temples, dug deep mines, and built towering fortresses. Today, scholars call them the ancient builders, but they did not simply vanish into history. Their physical bodies remained behind, trapped in a state of eternal, tormented unrest. This is the phenomenon of the Undead Plague, a dark force that has rewritten the biology of the Overworld and turned the former masters of this world into its most tragic predators. To understand this plague, we must first look at its most common manifestation, the zombie. At first glance, a zombie appears remarkably similar to the travelers who wander the world today. They wear the same blue trousers and teal shirts, a silent but powerful clue pointing to their origin. These were once the average citizens of the ancient empire. However, the spark of life and intellect has been completely extinguished, replaced by a hollow, rotting imitation. Their skin has decayed into a pale, mouldy green, and their eyes are completely dark, devoid of thought. They do not build, they do not create, and they do not speak. Instead, they emit low, guttural groans that echo through the night, a sound of endless hunger and physical decay. The behavior of the common zombie is guided by a singular, relentless drive, the desire to destroy living warmth. When darkness falls, they emerge from the shadows and begin their slow, heavy march. They are drawn to light and life, showing a particular and terrifying hatred for the peaceful villagers who inhabit the valleys. A zombie will pursue a villager across great distances, showing a surprising level of persistence. In their hunts, they exhibit a basic mechanical problem-solving ability. If a wooden door blocks their path, they do not simply turn away. They will gather at the threshold, throwing their weight against the wood, pounding rhythmically until the barrier splinters and breaks. This behavior suggests that some tiny, faded memory of physical structures and how to bypass them still lingers in their rotting brains. The infectious nature of this plague is highly efficient and tragic. When a zombie attacks a villager, the victim does not always perish. Often, the curse of undeath is passed on, transforming the peaceful merchant or farmer into a zombie villager. In this state, the victim retains their professional clothing and their distinct elongated features, but their mind is lost to the same dark hunger. Yet, this tragedy also offers a profound biological revelation. Unlike other monsters of the night, a zombie villager can be cured by weakening the infected subject with a specific potion and feeding them a golden apple. A reaction is triggered. The body begins to shake violently as the golden magic fights the infection. After a period of intense struggle, the curse is lifted and the villager is restored to life. This cure proves that the undead state is not a permanent destruction of the soul, but a physical and magical disease that suspends the body in a state between life and death. When a zombie is exposed to water, the plague undergoes a fascinating adaptation. If a zombie remains submerged in a river, lake, or ocean for too long, it does not simply drown and dissolve. Instead, the water fills its decayed lungs, and a deep physical transformation begins. The creature shakes, its skin shifting from a mouldy green to a glowing deep turquoise. This is the creation of the drowned. These aquatic undead are perfectly adapted to the cold depths of the oceans. They swim with fluid grace, their eyes glowing with a faint, eerie light in the dark water. Remarkably, the drowned often carry tools of ancient design, most notably the trident. The trident is a weapon of immense power, capable of channeling the storms of the sky. The fact that the drowned can wield these complex weapons with deadly accuracy suggests that the deep waters preserve a kind of muscle memory, allowing them to use the naval technology of the ancient builders who once ruled the seas. If the zombie represents the preservation of rotting flesh, the skeleton represents the ultimate stage of physical decay. Over years, decades, or perhaps centuries, the flesh of the deceased builders rots away completely, leaving behind only bare, dry bones. Yet, the animation does not stop. Some dark, unseen energy binds these bones together, allowing them to walk, run, and hunt. Unlike the clumsy and slow zombies, skeletons are remarkably agile and quiet, They move with a dry, clicking sound, their empty eye sockets searching the darkness for prey. They do not rely on brute force. Instead, they represent the military legacy of the ancient civilization. Skeletons are defined by their mastery of the bow and arrow. This choice of weapon requires a level of coordination and intelligence far beyond that of the common zombie. A skeleton must possess the spatial awareness to aim, calculate distance, and lead a moving target. They pull back their bowstrings with mechanical consistency, releasing arrows with deadly precision. This suggests that the skeleton is not just a mindless puppet of the plague, but a remnant of the ancient empire's archers and soldiers. The knowledge of warfare, projectile physics, and tool maintenance has survived the complete loss of their flesh and organs, locked deep within the cold marrow of their bones. In different environments, the skeletal remains of the builders have adapted to survive and threaten the living in unique ways. In the frozen wastes of the tundra and ice plains, we find the stray. These are skeletons that have been exposed to extreme, biting cold for generations. They are draped in ragged, dark grey clothing, and their bones have taken on a pale, icy blue tint. The stray is a testament to how the environment can influence the undead plague. Their arrows are not ordinary projectiles. They are tipped with a freezing magic that slows down anyone they hit. The cold has not destroyed them. It has hardened them, turning them into silent, freezing sentinels of the snow. Conversely, in the humid swamps and dark trial chambers of the world, we find a different variant known as the bogged. These skeletons have been reclaimed by nature. Their bones are covered in thick moss, and wild mushrooms grow directly out of their skulls. This physical union between decayed bone and plant life has created a highly toxic creature. The bogged fire arrows tipped with deadly poison, showing how the natural decay of the swamp has merged with the martial skill of the skeleton. It is a grim reminder that even when the ancient builders are reduced to dust, the world around them will use their remains to create new, specialized threats. But perhaps the most terrifying skeletal variant is found outside the overworld. Deep within the hellish dimensions of the Nether, here, in the towering dark fortresses of Netherrack, dwell the Wither skeletons. These creatures are significantly taller than their overworld counterparts, and their bones are charred black as if they were forged in the volcanic fires of the underworld. They do not carry bows. Instead, they wield heavy stone swords, moving with surprising speed through the dark corridors. A single strike from their blade inflicts the Wither effect, a terrible curse that slowly rots the victim's life force from the inside out, turning their vision black. The Wither skeletons represent a darker chapter of the ancient builders' history, a time when they ventured into the Nether and were consumed by its corrupting, ash-filled energy. Despite their terrifying strengths and adaptations, all undead of the overworld share a single fatal vulnerability: the light of the sun. As the night ends and the first rays of dawn break over the horizon, a dramatic event occurs. Any zombie or skeleton caught in the open sunlight begins to burn. This is not a simple physical fire, but a supernatural reaction. The sunlight acts as a purifying force, reacting violently with the dark energy that animates their dead flesh and bones. The creatures panic, frantically searching for safety. They will run beneath the canopy of trees, retreat into the dark mouths of caves, or plunge themselves into bodies of water to extinguish the flames. This sun-scorched fate is a poetic and tragic end to their nightly hunts. It suggests that the overworld itself rejects their existence, using the daily cycle of light to cleanse the land of the plague. Only those who wear helmets of iron, gold, or diamond can resist the burning light, as the armor shields their decaying skulls from the direct rays of the sun. But even this armor eventually breaks under the heat, leaving them to dissolve into ash. The undead plague of the overworld is more than just a collection of monsters to be avoided. It is a living, walking history book of a fallen world. Every groaning zombie, every swimming drowned, and every precise skeleton is a reminder of the people who once built the world we now explore. They are the physical remains of a grand civilization, stripped of their humanity, their achievements and their peace, condemned to wander the dark corners of the earth as a warning of what happens when a great empire falls. As we watch them burn in the morning light, we are left to wonder what force could have unleashed such a terrible curse, and whether the traveller of today is destined to share their quiet, bone-chilling fate. Chapter 4. Night Terrors of the Overworld. Every living creature in the Overworld is bound by the rhythm of day and night. For a traveller, the day is a time for progress, building and exploration, while the night is a time to seek shelter and rest. But when a traveller refuses to rest, a quiet and dangerous change begins within their body. Sleep is not just a break from work, it is a vital biological process of restoration. Without it, the brain begins to misfire. Chemical waste builds up in the mind, slowing down reaction times, weakening physical strength, and warping how a person sees their surroundings. By the second night of continuous awake time, the traveller's heart rate increases, and their focus begins to slip. The senses become overly sharp, yet completely unreliable. Shadows seem to stretch, and the sound of the wind is easily mistaken for distant voices. By the third night, this biological toll reaches a critical point. The body, pushed past its natural limits, begins to leak stress hormones and emit a specific chemical signature of extreme fatigue. This signature is invisible to other survivors, but it acts like a beacon for a highly specialized predator of the high atmosphere. For a long time, early researchers believed that these late-night attackers were just hallucinations. It seemed logical that a mind broken by sleeplessness would invent monsters in the dark sky. However, physical evidence tells a very different story. The beasts that descend upon the exhausted are entirely real, possessing physical bodies, bones, and a highly specialized anatomy designed for aerial hunting. They are known as phantoms. To understand how the phantom targets its victim, we must look closer at the phenomenon of insomnia. When a human body goes without sleep, the brain, desperate for rest, begins to emit specific chemical markers through sweat and breath. The phantom, flying high in the cold upper layers of the atmosphere, possesses sensory organs that are highly tuned to these exact signatures. They do not hunt by sight or sound alone, they hunt the very essence of exhaustion. The phantom is a creature of the high sky, often spawning at altitudes where the air is cold and thin. It looks like a decayed flying reptile or a manta ray of the clouds. Its body is mostly a skeletal frame, covered in patches of dark blue-green skin. Under its ribs, a faint, eerie light glows, matching the bright green of its eyes. This glow is not warm. It is a cold, biological light that helps the creature navigate the absolute darkness of the night sky. The most fascinating part of the phantom is its wings. They are made of a thin, tough material known as the phantom membrane. This membrane is incredibly light, yet strong enough to resist the high-velocity winds of the upper atmosphere. The phantom does not fly by flapping its wings constantly like a bird. Instead, it uses an advanced gliding method. It rides the thermal updrafts of the overworld, circling silently high above the ground until it detects its prey. When a phantom spots a target, it changes its flight pattern. It stops gliding and enters a steep, controlled dive. The mechanics of this dive are incredibly efficient. The phantom tucks its wings slightly to reduce air resistance, picking up speed rapidly. At the very last moment, it spreads its wings wide to catch the air, leveling out just enough to strike its prey with its sharp fangs before climbing back into the safety of the dark sky. This unique aerodynamic quality of the phantom membrane explains why it is so valuable to researchers and travelers alike. When harvested, this membrane can be used to repair the elytra, the ancient, rare flying wings found in the outer reaches of the world. The fact that the phantom's skin can perfectly restore the gliding function of the elytra suggests a deep biological connection between these organisms and the lost technologies of flight. Despite their mastery of the air, phantoms carry a fatal biological weakness. They are undead creatures, meaning their cellular structure cannot tolerate direct sunlight. When the sun rises, the UV radiation reacts violently with the decaying tissues of the phantom, causing them to burst into flames. To survive, they must remain high above the clouds where the sun does not reach, or they must dissolve back into the dark corners of the world until the next night falls. While the skies are guarded by the winged terrors of insomnia, the surface and the deep underground belong to another ancient class of predators. These are the giant spiders. Unlike the phantoms, which only appear under very specific conditions of human exhaustion, spiders are permanent residents of the overworld. They are highly adaptable, occupying almost every environment, from the dampest swamps to the deepest stone caverns. The giant spider of the overworld is a biological wonder. It is many times larger than any insect or arachnid found in ordinary nature, reaching a size that can easily overpower an unarmed human. Its body is covered in a thick, dark exoskeleton that protects its internal organs from physical harm. This exoskeleton is surprisingly light, allowing the spider to move with incredible speed and agility across flat ground. One of the most remarkable physical traits of the giant spider is its ability to climb vertical surfaces. It can scale sheer stone walls, high cliffs, and the sides of wooden shelters with ease. This is made possible by thousands of microscopic, hook-like hairs on the tips of its legs. These hairs find grip in even the smallest imperfections of a surface. To a spider, a smooth stone wall is as easy to climb as a flat forest path. The only obstacles they cannot easily scale are overhanging ledges, which force their heavy bodies to lose their center of gravity and fall. And therefore, the nesting habits of these creatures vary depending on their subspecies. The common giant spider prefers the surface, often nesting in the dark canopies of roofed forests or inside shallow caves. Here, they spin thick webs of high-tensile silk. This silk is not just used to catch prey, it is also used to reinforce the structure of their nests. The physical structure of their webs is a marvel of natural engineering. The silk produced by the giant spider is composed of complex proteins that give it a tensile strength greater than steel of the same thickness. It is also coated in a chemical adhesive that does not dry out, even in the dry air of desert temples or the damp air of swamp biomes. When a creature touches a web, the adhesive instantly bonds with their skin or armor, making escape nearly impossible without a sharp blade to cut the threads. Deep underground, however, lives a smaller but far more dangerous relative, the cave spider. These creatures are primarily found in abandoned mine shafts, where they build massive, dense nests. Because the underground environment is closed and dark, cave spiders do not need to wander far to hunt. Instead, they spin vast networks of cobwebs that fill entire corridors, turning the wooden ruins into a deadly maze. These underground nests are highly organized. The webs are placed strategically to block tunnels, trapping any creature that tries to navigate the old wooden shafts. Unlike the common spider, the cave spider has adapted to carry a powerful poison. A single bite from its fangs injects a toxic substance that attacks the nervous system of the victim, weakening them quickly and making them easy to wrap in silk for later consumption. The reproduction of these arachnids is closely tied to their nesting sites. In the deepest, darkest parts of their nests, spiders lay clutches of eggs. These eggs are protected by layers of thick webbing to keep them warm and safe from predators. When the young hatch, they are already capable of spinning basic webs and hunting small organisms, quickly growing to their massive adult size by feeding on whatever enters their dark territory. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of spider biology is how their behavior changes based on light levels. Spiders possess multiple glowing red eyes, which are highly sensitive to movement and light. In the pitch black of night or deep underground, their eyes adapt to detect the faintest outlines of prey. During these dark hours, their hunting instincts are fully active, and they will attack any living creature on sight. However, when exposed to bright sunlight, a fascinating chemical shift occurs within the spider's brain. The intense light of the sun floods their sensitive eyes, temporarily blinding their predatory instincts. In daytime, giant spiders become passive. They will not attack a traveler unless they are provoked or attacked first. This suggests that their aggression is not driven by malice, but by a simple, light-controlled survival instinct. But travelers must remain cautious. Even during the brightest day, a spider that wanders into a shadow, such as under a tree canopy or inside a shallow cave, will instantly regain its aggressive nature. The moment the light level drops, the hunting instinct is switched back on, and the docile creature becomes a deadly predator once more. Together, the phantom and the giant spider represent the dual nature of the overworld's night terrors. One rules the high, empty air, punishing those who refuse to rest and let their minds heal. The other rules the dark earth and the deep caves, waiting patiently in silent webs for the unwary traveler. To survive in this world, one must understand these biological systems, respecting the absolute necessity of sleep and the deadly rules of the dark. Chapter 5: Guardians of the Deep. Deep beneath the rolling waves of the world's vast oceans lies a silent, dark wilderness. For most travelers, the deep sea is a place of cold emptiness, where the light of the sun slowly fades into absolute blackness. Yet, if you descend far enough into these freezing depths, the natural topography of the ocean floor suddenly gives way to something impossible. Rising from the dark sand are massive, perfectly geometric structures. These are the ocean monuments, grand and imposing fortresses that have survived for countless ages beneath the crushing weight of the water. They do not look like natural rock formations, nor do they resemble the ruined settlements found on land. Instead, they stand as silent, pristine monuments to an ancient era of advanced engineering, humming with a strange internal power that has never truly shut down. To understand these monuments, we must first examine the extraordinary material from which they are constructed. The walls, pillars, and arches are made of a unique stone known as prismarine. Unlike any other rock found in the overworld, prismarine is not static. If you observe the outer walls of a monument closely, you will see that the stone slowly and continuously shifts its color, cycling through shades of pale green, deep teal, and sea blue. It is as if the stone itself is breathing, or perhaps reacting to the movement of the tides. This constant color shifting suggests that prismarine is not merely dead stone, but a highly reactive material that holds and conducts a mysterious form of energy. The builders of these monuments did not rely on torches or open flames, which would be useless under the sea. Instead, they illuminated their grand halls with sea lanterns. These luminous blocks are crafted from prismarine crystals and glowing dust, emitting a constant, clean, white light that cuts through the murkiest water. The presence of these lanterns, combined with the shifting colors of the walls, gives the interior of the monument an otherworldly glow. It is a place of cold, calculated beauty, designed to last forever in an environment that normally destroys everything humans build. But the monuments are far from abandoned. They are protected by a dedicated army of aquatic sentinels known as guardians. These creatures are unlike any other living thing in the world, presenting a fascinating puzzle for scholars and naturalists. A guardian has a large, blocky, sphere-like body covered in teal scales that match the prismarine of the monument. From its body protrude bright orange spikes, which can retract when the creature swims and extend when it stops to defend itself. Most striking of all is its single large red eye. This eye does not blink, and it follows any nearby creature with a cold, relentless intelligence. For generations, scholars have debated the true nature of the guardians. Are they natural deep-sea animals, or are they artificial constructs created by the same ancient civilization that built the monuments? Many physical details suggest they may be a combination of both, a form of ancient biomechanical engineering. Their perfectly cubic shape and the way their spikes extend and retract resemble mechanical parts rather than organic limbs. Furthermore, when a guardian is defeated, it does not leave behind normal organic remains like fish do. Instead, it drops prismarine shards and crystals, the very same materials used to construct the monuments. It is highly possible that the Guardians were literally grown or built from the monument itself, programmed with a single, eternal directive to defend the monument at all costs. The primary weapon of the Guardian is perhaps the strongest evidence of their connection to prismarine energy. When an intruder approaches, the Guardian's single red eye locks onto the target. A faint purple beam of light begins to project from the eye, connecting the Guardian to its victim. Over the course of a few seconds, this beam changes color, shifting from purple to a bright, hot yellow. As the beam changes, it grows increasingly intense, channeling concentrated energy directly into the target. This is not a physical projectile, but a focused laser of pure energy. If the intruder cannot find cover behind a pillar or swim out of range, the beam explodes with thermal energy, causing massive damage. In addition to this ranged attack, the Guardians possess a highly effective passive defense. When their orange spikes are extended, any attacker who attempts to strike them with a sword or spear will suffer a sharp, painful backlash. This thorns-like defense makes fighting them in close quarters extremely dangerous, especially when swimming under the heavy pressure of the deep sea. The Guardians also show an intense, instinctive hatred for squids, actively hunting them down whenever they drift too close to the monument. This suggests their programming is designed to keep the surrounding waters completely clear of any large biological life that might interfere with the monument's functions. While the standard Guardians patrol the outer walls and flooded corridors in great numbers, the true authority within the monument belongs to the Elder Guardians. These are much larger, ancient versions of the standard Guardian. They are pale grey in colour, with dark blue spikes and a faded, weathered appearance that speaks to their immense age. Only 3 Elder Guardians reside in any single monument, typically stationed in key chambers, one near the top of the structure, and one in each of the wing sections. They do not swim as actively as their smaller counterparts, instead floating majestically in their designated rooms like silent, watchful deities. The Elder Guardians possess a terrifying supernatural ability that sets them apart from almost any other creature in the Overworld. When an adventurer approaches the monument, even if they are still outside the stone walls, the Elder Guardian can sense their presence. The Elder Guardian will project a powerful psychic wave through the water. To the adventurer, this manifests as a sudden, ghostly image of the Elder Guardian flashing before their eyes, accompanied by a deep, echoing sound that vibrates through their chest. Immediately after, the adventurer is struck with a severe affliction known as mining fatigue. This mining fatigue is not a simple physical tiredness. It is a powerful magical suppression that makes the adventurer's arms feel incredibly heavy, reducing their ability to swing tools to a fraction of their normal speed. Under this influence, breaking even a single block of prismarine becomes an agonizingly slow process, taking several minutes of continuous effort. By deploying this psychic defense, the Elder Guardians ensure that no intruder can easily tunnel through the walls of the monument to steal its treasures or bypass its defenses. The monument becomes an unbreakable fortress, forcing any challenger to enter through the main gates and face the army of Guardians head-on. What then are these ancient sentinels protecting with such absolute dedication? In the very heart of the monument, hidden behind thick walls of dark prismarine, lies the treasure chamber. Here, wrapped in the rarest and darkest blocks of the monument, are 8 massive blocks of solid gold. For a mortal explorer, this gold is a fortune of immense value, but to the ancient builders, gold may have had a different, more functional purpose, perhaps serving as an excellent conductor for the vast amounts of energy flowing through the monument. In addition to the gold, explorers often discover strange, dry chambers filled with sponges. These sponges are incredibly rare in the natural world, possessing the miraculous ability to instantly absorb massive quantities of water, drying out entire rooms in seconds. How these sponges came to be stored inside the monuments is another mystery. Some believe the ancient builders used them to clear water during the construction of the monument, while others suggest they were cultivated as a valuable resource for controlling water flow in ancient engineering projects. The true secret of the ocean monuments, however, lies in how their materials can be used to harness the power of the ocean itself. By harvesting the prismarine blocks and sea lanterns from a monument, an adventurer can construct a specific geometric frame. At the center of this frame, if one places a heart of the sea encased in a shell of nautiluses, a conduit is born. The conduit is an active, pulsing device that opens like a protective eye. Once activated by the surrounding prismarine, the conduit channels the monument's ancient energy to establish a protective zone over a massive area of the ocean. Within the range of an active conduit, the hostile nature of the deep sea is completely neutralized for the traveler. They are granted the ability to breathe underwater indefinitely. Their vision is cleared so they can see through the dark water as if it were bright daylight, and their mining speed is restored to normal. Furthermore, the conduit will actively attack any hostile creatures, such as drowned or guardians, that dare to enter its sphere of influence, striking them down with bolts of pure energy. It is the ultimate synthesis of prismarine technology and natural ocean power. When we look at the ocean monuments, the guardians, and the power of the conduit, a grand picture begins to emerge. These underwater structures were not merely graves or decorative temples. They were the power plants and research stations of a highly advanced, ancient civilization that mastered both magic and physical engineering. When their civilization passed into history, they left behind their most durable creations, powered by the eternal energy of the ocean, and protected by guardians that never sleep, never age, and never abandon their post. They remain down there in the dark, humming silently, waiting for someone with the strength and knowledge to unlock the secrets of the deep. Chapter 6. The Villager Hegemony. The Overworld is a land of quiet beauty, but its history is deeply divided. To understand the social balance of this world, one must look at the villages that dot the plains, deserts, and snowy valleys. These settlements are home to a gentle and productive group of people known simply as the villagers. For generations they have lived in peaceful harmony, building simple wooden and stone houses, growing crops, and trading goods with anyone who passes through. They do not maintain standing armies. They do not forge weapons of war. Instead, they live by a strict code of absolute pacifism, choosing to rely on massive iron protectors called golems to defend their borders from the monsters of the night. Yet, this peaceful way of life was not always accepted by everyone. Deep in the ancient history of this world, a great division occurred. A group within the villager society began to question the rules of their elders. They did not want to spend their lives simply farming, trading, and whispering in their quiet, gentle language. These restless individuals wanted to explore the deeper mysteries of the world. They wanted to study combat, to develop new technologies, and to experiment with the hidden forces of magic. To the conservative villager elders, these ambitions were dangerous and unnatural. The elders believed that seeking such power would destroy the community. As a result, these curious freethinkers were cast out, banished forever from the warmth of the village lanterns. These exiled outcasts retreated into the deep, dark places of the overworld. Over time, their isolation and bitterness changed them. They became the Illagers. While they share the same basic shape and tall noses as their peaceful cousins, their appearance has grown cold and pale, with grey skin that reflects a life spent away from the cheerful sun. They rejected the emeralds that the villagers hold so dear as a sign of trade and friendship. Instead, they turned to lapis lazuli and other dark materials to fuel their ambitions. What began as a group of banished outcasts slowly grew into a powerful parallel society, fueled by jealousy and a desire for revenge against the peaceful cousins who had rejected them. The most visible signs of this growing threat are the pillager outposts. These tall, dark towers are built from dark oak wood and rough cobblestone. They rise above the trees like warning signs, standing in sharp contrast to the gentle, open architecture of the nearby villages. Inside and around these towers, the pillagers keep watch. These are the foot soldiers of the Villager army. Unlike the villagers, who never touch a weapon, the pillagers have embraced technology. They carry mechanical crossbows, powerful weapons that allow them to strike from a distance with deadly precision. From their outposts, patrols of pillagers march out across the land, carrying dark banners that display their symbol of rebellion. They watch the roads, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Far deeper in the dense, shaded canopy of the dark forests lies the true heart of their civilization, the woodland mansions. These massive, multi-story structures are incredibly rare and difficult to find. They are built on a scale that dwarfs any normal village. Inside these quiet, shadowy halls, the Illagers have built a strange and unsettling world. The mansions contain hundreds of rooms, each filled with bizarre art, giant wool statues of their leaders, and hidden chambers meant for dark experiments. Here, the elite members of the Illager society live and work in secret, far from the eyes of the rest of the world. It is within these grand, silent walls that their most dangerous plans are made. Inside the woodland mansions, two distinct classes of Illager leaders rule. The first are the Vindicators. These are physical enforcers, driven by a cold and absolute rage. They wear dark, simple robes, and they keep their iron axes hidden until they are ready to strike. When a Vindicator spots an outsider, their quiet posture instantly disappears. They run forward with terrifying speed, swinging their heavy axes with wild, unstoppable strength. There are even legends of certain Vindicators who lose all control, attacking any living thing in their path in a fit of pure madness. They represent the raw, physical violence that the peaceful villagers worked so hard to banish from their society. Beside the Vindicators stand the Evokers, the true masters of the mansions. The Evokers have moved beyond physical weapons, dedicating their lives entirely to the study of dark magic. They wear elegant black robes lined with gold, showing their high status among their kin. An Evoker does not fight with an axe or a crossbow. Instead, they stand back and use their minds to summon magical forces. With a wave of their hands, they can pull snapping, metal-like fangs directly out of the solid ground, crushing their enemies from below. Even more terrifying is their ability to summon the Vexes. These are small, ghostly spirits that fly through the air, passing effortlessly through solid walls and doors. The Vexes carry glowing swords and fly with an eerie, high-pitched laugh, pursuing targets wherever they try to hide. The creation of these creatures is a mystery, but many scholars believe they are made from the pure malice and energy of the Evoker's mind. They are physical representations of the hatred the Illagers hold for the peaceful world outside their dark forests. Through their dark experiments, the Evokers achieved something that many thought was impossible. They learned how to cheat death. When an Evoker is finally defeated, they drop a small, golden artifact known as the Totem of Undying. This tiny statue, shaped like a golden figure with bright green emerald eyes, holds a powerful charge of life-saving magic. If a person holds this totem in their hand at the exact moment of their death, the totem shatters, releasing a wave of warm light that heals their wounds, protects them from damage, and gives them a second chance at life. The creation of such an item is the ultimate achievement of Illager science, but it comes at a dark price. Many believe that the creation of these totems requires the manipulation of life force, perhaps taken from the very villagers they capture during their raids. To support their armies, the Illagers also engineered a terrible living weapon known as the Ravager. These are massive, quadrupedal beasts with stone-grey skin, thick horns, and a face that looks like a twisted caricature of a villager. The Ravager is a living siege engine. Despite its great weight, it can charge forward with incredible speed, easily crushing crops, breaking through wooden barriers, and knocking back anyone who tries to stand in its path. When a Ravager roars, the sheer force of its breath can stun nearby defenders, leaving them helpless. It is a creature bred for one purpose: to destroy the fragile structures of the villages and bring down the iron golems that protect them. The ultimate expression of the Illagers' hatred is the raid. When a group of Illager scouts is defeated near a village, they leave behind a dark energy, a bad omen that marks the defender of the village. If that defender enters a peaceful settlement while marked, the air turns cold, and a loud, ominous horn echoes across the hills. This horn signals the arrival of an organized Villager army. Wave after wave of pillagers, vindicators, evokers, and ravagers march into the village, burning crops, breaking down doors, and hunting down the helpless inhabitants. It is a brutal clash between two completely different ways of life. During these raids, the peaceful villagers can do nothing but run and hide in their homes, locking their wooden doors and praying that their iron golems can hold the line. The iron golems fight bravely, throwing the heavy attackers into the air with their massive arms, but often they are overwhelmed by the sheer number and magical power of the invaders. If the defenders fail, the village is left in ruins, its inhabitants gone, and its treasures stolen. The villagers take what they want and return to their dark outposts, celebrating their victory over the family that cast them out. This endless conflict is one of the greatest tragedies of the Overworld. The villagers and the villagers are brothers, sharing the same blood and the same history, yet they are locked in a perpetual struggle that shows no sign of ending. One side chooses the path of peace, trade, and simple community, while the other chooses the path of ambition, power, and destructive magic. As long as the lanterns burn in the villages and the dark banners fly over the outposts, the deep schism of the Overworld will continue to shape the destiny of this blocky world. A constant reminder of what happens when a society is torn apart by its own desires. Chapter 7. The Iron Protector. In the quiet, windswept corners of the Overworld, where simple settlements cling to the edges of dark forests and vast deserts, there exists a silent guardian. It stands nearly 3 blocks tall, a towering monument of pure metal and ancient magic. This is the Iron Golem, a creature born not from the natural cycle of life, but from necessity, craftsmanship, and a desperate plea for protection. To understand this metallic giant, we must look beyond its intimidating frame and study the strange, almost tragic nature of its existence. It is a creature designed for a single, unyielding purpose: to stand between the helpless and the horrors of the night, bound by an eternal duty that it can never escape. The creation of an iron golem is a ritual of precise geometry and raw resources, requiring 4 massive blocks of solid iron arranged in a T-shape. This heavy structure represents the physical body, a dense and near-indestructible shell built to withstand the harshest blows. But the metal alone is cold and lifeless. To spark this monument into motion, a carved pumpkin or a glowing jack-o'-lantern must be placed atop the central block. This final act is the catalyst that breathes life into the iron. The carved pumpkin, with its hollowed-out eyes and haunting grin, acts as a sort of mask, channeling a mysterious animus into the metallic frame. The moment the pumpkin is set in place, the heavy blocks shift, the seams fuse, and the giant wakes, its long arms dropping to its sides as it takes its first heavy step. Scientists and scholars of the Overworld have long debated the exact nature of this transformation. Why does a vegetable, specifically a carved pumpkin, possess the power to animate hundreds of pounds of refined iron? Some believe the pumpkin acts as a container for a primitive, elemental spirit, a soul of the earth that is captured and bound to the iron frame. Others suggest the carving of the face is a form of ancient symbolic programming, a visual command that instructs the magic of the world to fill the empty vessel. Whatever the truth, the result is an entity of immense power, completely devoid of personal desire, hunger, or fear, driven solely by its programmed instinct to defend. While a wanderer can construct these guardians by hand, many iron golems are born through a very different process within the heart of bustling villages. Here, the creation of a protector is not a deliberate act of construction, but a physical manifestation of collective emotion. When villagers gather at their meeting places to share gossip, or when they are gripped by the paralyzing panic of a midnight raid, their shared fear and desire for safety seem to call out to the world. If enough villagers gather, sharing stories of the dangers lurking just beyond their wooden doors, Their collective subconscious summons a guardian into existence. It is as if the very air of the village, thick with anxiety and hope, solidifies into a towering protector of metal and vines. This natural summoning process reveals a deep, almost telepathic connection between the villagers and their guardians. A village-spawned golem is fiercely loyal to its community. It patrols the gravel paths, steps over the low fences, and watches the horizon with tireless vigilance. Unlike a golem built by a travelling adventurer, a naturally spawned protector remembers the faces of those it protects. If a traveller commits an act of violence against a villager, the golem will recognise this threat instantly. Its heavy iron eyes will lock onto the offender, and it will charge with terrifying speed, flinging the intruder high into the air with its massive arms. It is a harsh, immediate justice, driven by a programming that values the safety of the village above all else. Yet, there is a profound tragedy to the life of an iron golem. It is a creature that does not sleep. While the villagers retreat to their warm beds as the sun dips below the horizon, the golem remains outside, standing in the cold rain and the creeping fog. It has no home, no family, and no personal agency. Its entire existence is a continuous, exhausting vigil. It wanders the dark perimeters of the town, listening for the rattling bones of skeletons, the groans of zombies, and the quiet metallic clink of Villager armor. It is a life of endless combat, where every victory is temporary and every night brings a new wave of threats. As the golem fights these endless battles, the physical toll of its duty becomes visible. Although it is incredibly durable, immune to fall damage and the suffocating depths of water, it is not indestructible. Over time, the relentless blows of monsters and the explosions of creepers begin to fracture its metal skin. Deep, dark cracks spiderweb across its chest and limbs, revealing the strain of its long service. A heavily damaged golem moves with a stiff, laboured gait, its metal joints groaning under the weight of its failing body. Yet, even as it stands on the verge of collapse, it does not flee. It will continue to swing its heavy arms, throwing itself into the fray until its iron frame finally shangs, breaking apart into a pile of lifeless metal blocks and a few scattered flowers. This decay can be halted by a caring creator or a grateful traveller. By approaching a cracked golem with raw iron ingots, one can carefully patch the fractures, smoothing out the damaged metal and restoring the guardian to its full, formidable strength. This act of repair is one of the few ways a player can show appreciation to these silent protectors. A quiet moment of maintenance that extends the golem's long, weary life. It is a reminder that while the golem is a machine of war, it is also a delicate construct that requires care to survive the endless onslaught of the night. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the iron golem's behavior is its soft, gentle nature when the threat of danger has passed. Despite being built for brutal combat, capable of crushing armor and shattering bones with a single blow, the golem exhibits a surprising capacity for tenderness. On quiet afternoons, when the sun is shining and the village is safe, a golem can occasionally be seen stopping in its tracks. It will reach down into the grass, pluck a bright red poppy, and hold it out to a nearby villager, or more often, to a curious child. The child will stare up at the towering giant of iron and vine, accepting the flower in a moment of pure, silent connection. This behavior, inspired by ancient stories of gentle giants, suggests that the golem is not merely a thoughtless automaton. Inside its heavy iron chest, beneath the layers of cold metal, there is a spark of appreciation for the peaceful life it is forced to defend. The poppy is a symbol of this peace, a fragile, beautiful thing that can only exist because the golem stands guard against the darkness. It is a touching contrast, the ultimate weapon of the village, holding the ultimate symbol of life and vulnerability. However, the relationship between players and these guardians is not always one of mutual respect. In the search for efficiency and resources, many advanced builders have analysed the very mechanics of how these creatures are summoned. They have learned to exploit the villagers' panic, trapping them in small, controlled chambers with terrifying monsters to force the continuous spawning of iron golems. These golems are then immediately funneled into automated containment areas, where they are systematically destroyed to harvest the iron ingots from their broken bodies. These iron farms represent a cold, mechanical exploitation of a creature designed to protect. The very instinct of the golem to spawn in response to the fear of the weak is turned against it, transforming a symbol of heroic defense into a tragic source of industrial material. Yet, whether standing as a factory resource or patrolling a quiet village under the moonlight, the iron golem remains one of the most iconic and mysterious figures of the overworld. It is a testament to the power of creation, a bridge between the physical laws of metallurgy and the magical forces that bind the world together. It asks for nothing, expects nothing, and fears nothing. It simply watches, a silent iron sentinel wrapped in vines, waiting for the next shadow to emerge from the trees, ready to strike a blow for the fragile peace of the world. Chapter 8. Depths of the Nether. To understand the Nether, one must first set aside all concepts of terrestrial ecology. In this subterranean world, there is no sun, no rain, and no soil as we know it. Instead, the landscape is defined by vast oceans of liquid stone, towering cliffs of red rock, and a heavy atmosphere thick with ash and sulfur. It is a dimension of perpetual fire. For any traveller from the overworld, survival here is a constant, exhausting struggle against the heat itself. Water evaporates instantly upon touching the dry air, making agriculture impossible and rendering traditional survival strategies useless. Yet, despite these extreme conditions, life has not only found a way to exist here, it has thrived. In the crimson-tinted forests and crumbling black stone bastions, a complex and brutal ecosystem plays out every single day. At the heart of this harsh environment are two dominant species whose lives are deeply connected. These are the piglins and the hoglins. Together, they represent the primary animal life of the Nether, locked in a continuous cycle of hunting, defense, and competition. To study them is to observe how biology adapts to the absolute limits of heat and radiation. Every physical trait they possess, from their thick hides to their peculiar behavior, is a direct response to the violent world they call home. Let us first turn our attention to the Crimson Forest. This biome is a dense, alien woodland where giant, tree-like fungi grow from a floor of red mycelium. It is here that we find the hoglin, a massive, four-legged beast that serves as the heavy tank of the Nether's food chain. Visually, the hoglin resembles a gigantic, prehistoric wild boar, but its biology is far more complex. Its body is covered in a thick, leathery hide that is completely immune to the standard heat of the Nether, though it still fears the touch of direct lava. This hide is reinforced by layers of dense muscle, allowing the creature to charge at high speeds through the dense undergrowth of the forest. The hoglin's most prominent physical features are its massive, upward-curving tusks. These are not merely for show. The hoglin is highly aggressive and deeply territorial. When it senses an intruder, it does not hesitate to charge, using its immense neck strength to fling its target high into the air. This attack method is highly effective, as the fall damage in the low-gravity, high-ceilinged caverns of the Nether is often fatal. Even a prepared explorer using a heavy shield will find themselves tossed aside by the sheer kinetic force of a hoglin's charge. This aggression is a vital survival mechanism, protecting the herds from predators and ensuring their dominance over the crimson feeding grounds. The primary diet of the hoglin consists of crimson fungi. They can be seen snuffling along the forest floor, using their sensitive snouts to root out these spore-bearing plants. This diet is rich in nutrients that are unique to the Nether, fueling the creature's massive growth. In fact, these fungi are so central to their biology that feeding them to adult hoglins will immediately trigger their mating instincts, leading to the rapid growth of the herd. However, despite their ferocity, hoglins possess a strange and highly specific vulnerability. They are absolutely terrified of warped fungi, the blue-green counterparts to their favorite food, If a traveller places a single warped fungus on the ground, a nearby hoglin will instantly stop its charge and flee in terror. Researchers believe this fear is chemical in nature. The spores of the warped fungus may contain toxins that are highly irritating or poisonous to the hoglin's respiratory system. Over generations, this physical sensitivity has evolved into an instinctual dread. This fear also extends to nether portals and respawn anchors. The strange low-frequency hum and the spatial distortion caused by these obsidian structures seem to deeply disturb the hoglin's sensory organs, driving them away. For the clever survivor, carrying a handful of these blue mushrooms is often the difference between a successful expedition and a sudden violent end. While the hoglin is the beast of the forest, the piglin is the undisputed master of the nether's social order. Piglins are bipedal, intelligent hominids with distinctly porcine features. They live in organized tribal societies, split between wandering hunting parties and permanent settlements within the massive decaying fortresses known as bastion remnants. Unlike the mindless monsters that wander the dark places of the overworld, piglins possess a rich culture, a structured hierarchy, and a sophisticated system of communication through grunts, snorts, and gestures. Within piglin society, there is a clear division of labor. The common piglins are hunters and gatherers. They patrol the crimson forests in groups, armed with crossbows and golden swords, working together to bring down the massive hoglins. This relationship is the cornerstone of the Nether's food economy. The piglins hunt the hoglins for their pork and leather, but the hunt is never easy. It is a dangerous, coordinated effort that requires tactical positioning and mutual trust. When a hunt is successful, the piglins will often celebrate with a synchronized dance, a rare display of joy and community in an otherwise grim dimension. However, not all piglins are equal. Deep within the black stone walls of the bastions dwell the piglin brutes. These individuals are larger, stronger, and far more aggressive than their common kin. They do not hunt, and they do not engage in trade. Their sole purpose is the defense of the bastion and its treasures. Armed with heavy golden axes, they will attack any outsider on sight, completely ignoring the diplomatic gestures that might pacify normal piglins. They represent the genetic protectors of the species, bred and trained to defend their home to the death. To understand the piglin, one must understand their relationship with gold. This yellow metal is not merely a currency to them. It is a profound, almost spiritual obsession. A piglin's aggressive nature can be completely pacified simply by wearing armor made of gold. To them, gold is a symbol of status, safety, and perhaps even divine favor. When presented with a gold ingot, a piglin will stop whatever it is doing, pick up the metal, and stare at it in quiet, hypnotic fascination. They will turn it over in their hands, examining its weight and purity, before offering a valuable resource from their personal inventory in exchange. This bartering behavior is one of the most unique interactions in all of the Nether's ecology. By offering gold, an explorer can trade with these hostile creatures for rare and vital materials. In exchange for the golden metal, piglins will offer items they have gathered or manufactured: fire-resistant potions, ender pearls, obsidian, quartz, and even specialized leather boots enchanted to walk swiftly across soul sand. This trade is not born out of kindness, but out of a deep-seated biological drive. Some scholars suggest that gold has a physical effect on piglin biology, perhaps emitting a subtle warmth or energy that eases the constant stress of living in a volcanic wasteland. But the most tragic aspect of piglin biology is revealed when they leave their native dimension. If a piglin is forced through a nether portal into the overworld, a horrifying transformation begins. Within moments of entering the cool, wet atmosphere, the piglin begins to shake violently. Their flesh rapidly decays, their eyes glaze over, and their mind is wiped clean of all intelligence and culture. In less than 20 seconds, the proud, gold-loving hunter is reduced to a zombified piglin, a mindless, undead creature that wanders aimlessly, feeling neither pain nor joy. This transformation is not a disease, but a violent physical reaction to the overworld's environment. The piglin's respiratory system and cellular structure are highly specialized for the dry, high-pressure, sulfur-rich air of the Nether. The clean, moisture-heavy air of the overworld acts like a rapid, destructive toxin, causing immediate organ failure and cellular death. The same tragic fate awaits the Hoglin, which transforms into the terrifying Zoglin upon crossing the threshold. The Zoglin loses all of its natural instincts, including its fear of warped fungi, and becomes a hyper-aggressive undead beast that attacks every living thing it sees. This biological barrier keeps the creatures of the Nether permanently trapped within their burning world. It is a natural prison. The portals that connect the dimensions are not gateways to new lands for them, but doors to instant, irreversible decay. For the piglins, the overworld is a legendary, toxic world that they can never truly inhabit, forcing them to remain in their crumbling bastions, hoarding their gold, and hunting the fierce hoglins in the crimson shadows. For the human explorer, navigating this dimension of fire requires a deep respect for these biological realities. To survive, one must adopt the habits of the natives, wear gold to show respect to the piglins, carry warped fungi to keep the charging hoglins at bay, and never forget that in this world, water is a myth, and fire is the only constant. The Nether is not merely a place of punishment, it is a fully realized ancient world with its own rules, its own history, and its own tragic beauty, waiting to be understood by those brave enough to step through the frame of obsidian. Chapter 9. The Wither Plague. The Nether is a dimension of harsh extremes, but its most dangerous aspect is not the heat or the rivers of lava. It is a silent, corrupting energy that sits beneath the surface of this red world. Scholars who study these ancient depths refer to this force as the rot, or more commonly, the wither. It is a state of active decay that goes against the natural order of life. While the overworld is a system of constant growth and renewal, the Nether contains pockets of absolute stagnation and destruction. At the heart of this system of decay is a unique substance known as soul sand. To the untrained eye, it appears to be a dark, gritty soil. However, closer inspection reveals a horrifying truth. Soul sand is a dense compaction of spiritual energy and organic matter. It is a literal graveyard of lost consciousness. When a living being steps upon it, their movement is instantly slowed. This is not due to the physical stickiness of the mud, but rather the collective pull of countless trapped spirits reaching upward, seeking to drag the living down into their eternal stillness. This soul sand is not inert. It possesses a strange, low-frequency vibration that can be felt through the soles of one's boots. In areas where soul sand is abundant, the air is thick with a cold, heavy fog. Even in the scorching heat of the Nether, these valleys feel damp and freezing to the touch. It is here, in these silent valleys, that the raw materials for the Great Plague are gathered. The souls trapped within the sand are desperate for release, yet they are bound by a powerful ancient force. They are the fuel, waiting for a spark. High above these valleys of sand stand the great fortresses of the Nether. These massive structures of dark red brick are monuments to an old, forgotten civilization. We do not know who built them, but we know who guards them now. Walking these narrow, dark corridors are the tall, charred figures known as wither skeletons. They are distinct from the pale, fragile skeletons of the overworld. A wither skeleton stands over 2.5 meters tall. Its bones are not white, but a deep charcoal black, as if they have been scorched by an intense, unnatural fire that never truly went out. The biology of the wither skeleton is a marvel of dark adaptation. Unlike their overworld cousins who rely on bows and arrows, wither skeletons carry heavy swords forged of crude stone. They move with a deliberate, heavy grace. Their bones are exceptionally dense, allowing them to withstand great impacts, but their most terrifying attribute is their touch. To be struck by a wither skeleton is not just to receive a physical wound, it is to be infected by the wither sickness. This black rot enters the bloodstream, turning the flesh grey and causing the body's natural healing systems to fail completely. The victim slowly dissolves from the inside out, their vitality draining away into nothingness. For centuries, scholars have wondered why these creatures carry such a potent toxin. The answer lies in their skulls. The skull of a wither skeleton is a highly concentrated node of necrotic energy. It acts like a magnetic pole for the dark forces of the Nether. When a wither skeleton is defeated, its bones usually crumble to dust. Only under rare circumstances, often through immense struggle, does the skull remain intact. These skulls are highly prized and feared. They are cold to the touch, and those who handle them report hearing faint, whispering voices, like a chorus of distant weeping souls. It is the combination of these two elements, the trapped souls of the sand and the necrotic focus of the black skulls, that allows for the creation of the ultimate force of decay. Throughout history, forbidden texts have warned against a specific geometrical arrangement of these materials. This ritual is not a magical spell in the traditional sense. Instead, it is a physical formula, a dark science that manipulates the fundamental laws of energy and matter. To initiate the ritual, one must construct a specific shape using 4 blocks of soul sand. The structure is built in the shape of a capital letter T. This shape is not accidental. It represents a torso and 2 outstretched arms, a crude, physical mimicry of a living body. The soul sand acts as the muscular and nervous system of the construct, a mass of trapped spirits ready to be channeled into a single point. Once the body is formed, 3 wither skeleton skulls must be placed side by side along the top of the structure. In the study of ancient rituals, the number 3 often represents completion, or the union of mind, body, and spirit. In this dark context, the 3 skulls act as 3 separate minds, drawing upon the vast well of souls beneath them. They are the control centers, the conductors of the coming storm. The moment the 3rd skull is placed, the physical laws of the surrounding area begin to shatter. The air pressure drops rapidly, a deep rumbling sound vibrates through the ground, shaking the very stones beneath the observer's feet. The construct does not rise immediately. Instead, it enters a state of violent absorption. It begins to pull in all local light and energy, turning the surrounding atmosphere dark and cold. During this initial phase, the creature is invulnerable. It is a black hole of life, drinking in the vitality of the world to fuel its own birth. This absorption phase lasts only a few seconds, but it culminates in a catastrophic event. As the creature reaches its maximum energy capacity, it releases a massive, concussive explosion. This blast is powerful enough to shatter stone and vaporize living tissue. It is a violent declaration of arrival. When the smoke clears, the creature known as the Wither is fully formed, floating silently in the air. The physical form of the Wither is a nightmare of skeletal geometry. It has 3 distinct heads, each spinning and snapping with a wild, hungry energy. Its lower body is not made of legs, but of a twisting tail of dark smoke and bone, hovering effortlessly above the ground. It possesses no eyes, yet it perceives the world with perfect clarity, guided by an intense hatred for all living things. The behavior of the Wither is entirely different from any other creature in the world. It does not hunt for food, it does not defend a territory, it does not seek to reproduce. Its sole purpose is the absolute eradication of life. It is a living storm of entropy. The moment it detects any living organism, whether it be a simple farm animal, a human explorer, or even the monsters of the night, it launches its attack. The Wither attacks by firing explosive projectiles shaped like its own skulls. These projectiles carry the same black rot as the Wither skeletons, but in a far more concentrated form. Upon impact, they explode, destroying the terrain and leaving behind a lingering cloud of decay. Any living thing caught in this explosion is instantly infected with the Wither effect. Their health drains rapidly, their skin darkens, and they are consumed by a terrible burning sickness that cannot be cured by ordinary medicine. What makes the Wither truly terrifying is its ability to regenerate. As it destroys life, It absorbs the fading energy of its victims, repairing its own damaged bones. It is a self-sustaining cycle of destruction. The more it destroys, the stronger it becomes. If left unchecked, a single wither could easily consume an entire ecosystem, leaving behind nothing but a barren wasteland of grey dirt and dead trees. To fight such a creature requires preparation, courage, and a deep understanding of its weaknesses. In its early stages of combat, the wither hovers high in the air, out of reach of ordinary weapons. Only bows and arrows can strike it. However, once its health is reduced by half, the creature undergoes a physical shift. It surrounds itself with a shimmering blue shield of energy. This shield deflects all incoming arrows, forcing the hunter to engage the beast in close-quarters combat. It is a desperate, bloody struggle, where one slip can result in instant infection and death. Yet, if the hunter prevails, the reward is something that defies all logical explanation. When the wither is finally defeated, its dark body does not simply crumble into ash. It collapses inward, condensing all of its stolen energy into a single tiny point. From the ashes of this ultimate engine of destruction, a beautiful glowing object emerges. It is the Nether Star. The Nether Star is one of the greatest mysteries of the world. It is a star-shaped crystal that emits a constant, brilliant light. It is completely immune to fire, lava, and even explosions. It represents a profound paradox. How can a creature made of pure decay and stolen souls produce something of such perfect, unblemished light? Perhaps, in the final moments of the wither's life, the thousands of trapped souls within its body are finally freed, leaving behind their purest, most radiant essence. This star is not merely a trophy. It is a source of immense constructive power. When placed at the center of a structure built from precious metals like iron, gold, or diamond, the Nether Star can be used to construct a beacon. This beacon shoots a beam of pure light high into the sky, cutting through the darkness. Within the range of this light, living beings find their strength renewed, their wounds healed, and their bodies made resistant to harm. In this way, the cycle of the Wither Plague comes to a beautiful, ironic end. The forces of darkness, decay, and death, when properly conquered and refined, become the very tools used to protect, heal, and sustain life. It is a powerful reminder that in this world, even the deepest shadows can be transformed into the brightest light, provided one has the courage to face the darkness head-on. Chapter 10. Eldritch Terrors of the Void. Of all the strange things that wander the dark corners of the overworld, none are as deeply unsettling as the Endermen. They do not belong to the green valleys or the deep forests. They are tall, impossibly thin figures, draped in a darkness that seems to absorb the very light around them. Their limbs are long and skeletal, and their eyes glow with a cold, pale purple light. Unlike the zombies that claw at your doors, or the skeletons that hunt with bows, the Enderman does not seem interested in simple destruction. They wander the world like lonely tourists, standing quietly in the rain, staring into the distance, and occasionally picking up a single block of dirt, stone, or flower, as if trying to remember what it feels like to hold a piece of the earth. To understand the Enderman, we must first look at how they move. A normal creature must walk, run, or fly to cross the land. The Enderman simply ceases to be in one place and instantly appears in another. This is not just fast movement, it is the physical folding of space. When an Enderman teleports, they leave behind a brief shower of glowing purple particles and a distinct heavy sound that vibrates in the air, a sound that researchers often describe as a sudden hollow rush of wind. At the center of this terrifying power is a physical organ known to adventurers as the Ender Pearl. This dense, heavy sphere is found deep within the chest of the Enderman. It is a biological mystery. The pearl seems to hold a pocket of the void itself, constantly pulling against the laws of gravity and space. When an Enderman wishes to move, the pearl releases a quick burst of energy, tearing open a small gateway in reality and pulling the creature through. When humans harvest these pearls, they can throw them to teleport short distances. but the experience is violent and painful, damaging the human body. For the Enderman, however, this transition is as natural as breathing, yet this power comes with a strange weakness. Endermen are deeply hurt by water. A simple rainstorm or a shallow river is a deadly hazard to them. When water touches their dark skin, it reacts violently, causing them to hiss in pain and teleport away in a panic. Scholars believe that their bodies are made of a material that is completely alien to our world, a substance so dry and dense that the molecular structure of water tears at their very physical form. This keeps them trapped in the dry, high places of the overworld, forever running from the clouds. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Endermen is the sound they make. When they are calm, they emit a series of strange gurgling clicks and long, low whimpers. For a long time, these sounds were thought to be mere animal noises. However, when audio scholars recorded these cries and played them backward, they discovered a chilling truth. The Enderman is not speaking a random monster language. They are speaking English, but their voices are reversed, slowed down, and heavily distorted. If you listen closely to the reversed recordings, you can hear them saying simple phrases. They say hello, they say here, they ask what is up, or tell each other to look for the eye. Some recordings even reveal them whispering the word forever. This discovery changes how we view these creatures entirely. They are not mindless beasts of the void. They are intelligent, or at least they once were. The fact that they speak a human language in reverse suggests a terrible history. It raises the question of whether the Endermen were once humans themselves. Ancient builders who travelled too far into the dark, became trapped in the void, and slowly mutated over thousands of years until their language, their bodies and their minds were turned completely inside out. This theory of a lost humanity might also explain their most famous and dangerous behavior, their hatred of being looked at. If you look an Enderman directly in the eyes, they will freeze. Their jaw will drop open in an impossibly wide, screaming stretch, and they will let out a high-pitched, deafening shriek of pure rage. They will then hunt you down with terrifying speed, teleporting behind you until one of you is dead. Why does a simple glance trigger such a violent reaction? A scholarly view suggests that it is not simple anger, but a deep, painful shame. If they were once like us, looking them in the eyes forces them to confront what they have become. It breaks their quiet illusion of wandering unnoticed. To be seen by a human is to be reminded of the life they lost, and their scream is a cry of agony and embarrassment, a desperate attempt to destroy the witness who looked into their ruined souls. To find the origin of these creatures, we must leave the overworld behind and step through the dark portal into their home dimension, the End. The End is a place of absolute emptiness. It is not a land of soil and trees, but a collection of cold, yellow stone islands floating in an endless, pitch-black void. There is no sun, no moon, and no stars. The air is cold and still. Here, thousands of Endermen stand on the yellow stone, staring out into the nothingness. In this barren wasteland, the Endermen do not carry blocks. They do not wander aimlessly. Instead, they stand in massive crowds, almost entirely silent, as if waiting for a command. This brings us to the concept of the hive mind of the End. At the center of this cold dimension lives the Ender Dragon, a massive black beast with glowing purple eyes, ruling over the central island from her towers of obsidian. The relationship between the Enderman and the dragon is complex and tragic. The Endermen do not fight the dragon. They live alongside her, but they do not seem to love her. Instead, they appear to be bound to her will. The dragon acts as a central hub of a collective consciousness, a massive psychic weight that keeps the Endermen quiet, obedient, and trapped in their grey, floating prison. Under her rule, their individual minds are suppressed. They become a single, massive organism, a hive that exists only to protect the island and the dragon's eggs. It is only when the dragon is defeated that this hive mind fractures. When the great beast falls and her energy is scattered into the void, the Endermen seem to wake up from a long, terrible dream. The heavy psychic fog lifts. For the first time in centuries, They are free to leave the central island. They begin to step through the small gateways that open around the edges of the void, scattering across the outer islands where the strange chorus plants grow, and eventually spilling over into the overworld and even the fiery depths of the Nether. Yet, even with the dragon gone, the Endermen can never truly go home. They are permanently changed. Their bodies are stretched, their voices are reversed, and their minds are fragmented. They wander the dimensions like ghosts of a forgotten empire, carrying a block of grass here, a block of red sand there, perhaps trying to rebuild a world they can no longer remember. When you see an Enderman standing in the rain, shivering and screaming in the dark, you are not just looking at a monster, you are looking at a tragic survivor of the void, a creature that has lost its home, its language, and its humanity, leaving only the purple glow of its eyes to pierce the endless night. Chapter 11. The Ender Dragon. In the absolute quiet of the outer cosmos, far beyond the warmth of the overworld and the burning depths of the Nether, lies a cold and silent realm. This is the End, a dimension consisting of pale yellow stone islands floating in an endless dark void. It is a place where time seems to stand still, and where the laws of nature as we know them do not apply. But this silent void is not empty. It has a ruler, a guardian, and perhaps its most tragic prisoner. She is known as the Ender Dragon, the last great titan of the void. To understand the history of this giant creature, we must look closely at her biology, her strange environment, and the ancient structures that bind her to her home. When you first step through the portal into the End, the atmosphere changes instantly. The air is cold and heavy, filled with a faint purple haze. At the center of this world stands a circle of massive pillars made of solid obsidian. High above these pillars, the Ender Dragon flies. She is a magnificent and terrifying sight. Her body is covered in scales as dark as the night sky, so black that they seem to absorb the little light around her. Her wings are massive and powerful, with grey bone structures that cut through the thin air. Her eyes glow with a deep, brilliant purple, the same colour that defines the strange energy of the End. Unlike any creature of the overworld, she does not walk on the ground. She belongs entirely to the air, circling her territory with a smooth, hypnotic motion that seems almost mechanical in its perfection. For ages, scholars of this blocky universe have debated the true nature of the Ender Dragon. Is she a wild beast protecting her nest, or is she an intelligent being of great power? Some ancient legends suggest she is the final survivor of an ancient race of dragons that once ruled the skies of many worlds. Others believe she was created by the same mysterious force that built the strongholds and the portals. What is certain is her deep connection to her environment. She does not need to hunt for food, nor does she rest. Her entire existence is focused on the central island of the End. She never strays far from the obsidian pillars, as if she is bound to them by an invisible chain. This connection is not just symbolic, it is a physical and biological reality. At the top of each towering obsidian pillar sits a delicate spinning object known as an end crystal. These crystals are beautiful but highly volatile structures. They consist of a glass-like outer shell containing a burning purple eye which floats above a base of bedrock. When the dragon is injured, she flies close to these pillars. Instantly, a bright beam of purple and white energy shoots out from the crystal and connects directly to her body. This energy heals her wounds in seconds, making her nearly immortal as long as the crystals remain intact. The relationship between the dragon and the end crystals is a fascinating study of survival. The crystals act as external organs, keeping her alive in a wasteland where nothing grows. They tap into the raw power of the void itself, turning that dark energy into a healing force. But this healing comes with a heavy price. Because her life force is linked to these crystals, she cannot leave the central island. If she flies too far away, the connection weakens, and she loses her source of power. Thus, the very things that keep her alive also make her a prisoner. She is trapped in a small circular territory, forced to fly in endless loops around the black pillars forever. This cycle of captivity becomes even more mysterious when we look at the center of the island. There, on the ground, lies a structure made of unbreakable bedrock. It is shaped like a small basin, cold and empty when the dragon is alive. This is the exit portal, the only gateway back to the overworld. But as long as the dragon lives, the portal is closed. Her life force is the key that locks it. It is as if she is the warden of a cosmic prison, and her own body is the lock. When a traveler finally defeats the dragon by destroying her crystals and wearing down her strength, her death is a spectacular and violent event. She does not simply fall to the ground. Instead, her body rises into the air, cracking open as brilliant beams of purple light tear through her scales from the inside out. With a final deafening roar, she dissolves into pure light and experience, leaving behind nothing but a single dark egg sitting on top of the newly opened portal. This egg is perhaps the most mysterious object in all of Minecraft. It is a smooth black egg with purple spots, and it reacts strangely to being touched. If you try to mine it, it teleports away, as if refusing to be captured by human hands. The egg represents the potential for a new beginning, a spark of life left behind in the cold void. But it also represents the continuation of a loop. The dragon may die, but her story does not end there. Through ancient rituals, a traveler can bring the Titan back to life. By placing 4 newly crafted end crystals on the edges of the bedrock portal, a powerful reaction is triggered. The crystals begin to shoot beams of light high into the sky, rebuilding the destroyed obsidian pillars one by one. Once the pillars are restored, the beams focus their energy on the center of the sky, and with a great explosion, the Ender Dragon is reborn. She stretches her wings and begins her flight once again, as if she had never died. This rebirth is not a happy event. The resurrected dragon has no memory of her previous life, nor does she have any freedom. She is immediately locked back into the same loop, circling the same pillars, healed by the same crystals, waiting for the next challenger to arrive. It is an endless cycle of creation, captivity, death, and resurrection. She is a titan born to be defeated, a majestic queen who rules over nothing but a barren rock and a quiet void. When we look at the Ender Dragon through this lens, our view of her changes. She is not a simple monster to be hunted for sport. She is a tragic figure, a remnant of an older world, who is bound to her duty and her prison. Her breath, a purple fog that lingers on the ground and burns the skin of those who touch it, is a physical manifestation of the corruption and pain of the void. Her roars are not just cries of anger, but the lonely sounds of a creature that has been alone in the dark for thousands of years. As we leave the end and return to the warm green grass of the overworld, we carry with us a deep sense of awe and sadness. The Ender Dragon remains behind, flying her silent circles under the dark sky, forever linked to the spinning crystals that are both her life support and her chains. She is the ultimate symbol of the mysteries that lie hidden in the deep corners of this blocky universe. A reminder that some legends are meant to be respected, and some prisoners can never be truly set free. Chapter 12. The Deep Dark and the Warden. Deep beneath the surface of the overworld, far below the rolling hills and the familiar underground caverns, lies a region of absolute quiet. If you descend past the deep slate layers, down into the deepest trenches around -51 blocks below sea level, the ambient sounds of the world begin to fade away. The dripping of water, the groaning of stone, and the distant cries of subterranean monsters are slowly replaced by a heavy, suffocating silence. This is the Deep Dark, a biome unlike any other in the world. It is a place where sound is not merely a physical wave in the air, but a direct threat to survival. To enter this realm is to step into a forgotten tomb, where every footstep is a gamble, and every breath must be taken with extreme caution. The defining characteristic of the Deep Dark is not its lack of light, but its unique biological resident, the skulk. Skulk is an invasive, plant-like growth that behaves more like a fungal colony or a parasitic neural network than a typical plant. It is dark turquoise and black, speckled with glowing starry spots that flicker with a dim, cold light. It does not grow on soil or sand. Instead, it spreads directly across the hard deep slate stone, consuming the cold rock and transforming it into a soft organic carpet. To look closely at a patch of skulk is to see a living, breathing landscape that seems to watch and listen to your every move. The skulk spreads through a highly specialized organ known as the skulk catalyst. The catalyst is a block-like structure with a glowing, pulsing core that acts as the stomach of the colony. It has a unique, terrifying biological function. It feeds on death. When a living creature dies near a skulk catalyst, the device activates immediately, absorbing the departing life force and experience of the fallen entity. It converts this vital energy into a liquid-like substance that flows outward, dissolving the surrounding stone and replacing it with fresh skulk growth. In this way, the skulk is a self-sustaining ecosystem that relies on the misfortune of visitors to expand its territory. To protect and grow this territory, the skulk has evolved an advanced sensory network. This network begins with the skulk sensor, an elegant and disturbing organism that resembles a small mound of dark tissue topped with 4 waving, leaf-like tendrils. These tendrils are highly sensitive to physical vibrations in the air. When a block is placed, a tool is used, or a creature walks nearby, the sensor detects the movement instantly. It responds by lighting up, vibrating rapidly, and sending an acoustic signal through the skulk carpet. This signal travels like an electrical impulse through a nervous system, alerting nearby blocks of the disturbance. The most dangerous destination for this signal is the skulk shrieker. The shrieker is a hollow, bone-like structure that sits at the center of the skulk patches. When a shrieker receives a signal from a skulk sensor, it activates, releasing a terrifying low-frequency scream that echoes through the caves. This scream is not just loud, it is a physical force. It carries a heavy curse of darkness, which immediately settles over the area. When this darkness strikes, the explorer's vision is severely restricted, failing and returning in rhythmic waves like a failing light bulb. The darkness disorients the mind and makes it impossible to see the terrain, leaving the intruder blind and vulnerable in the deep silence. Within these silent, skulk-covered cavern systems lie the ruins of the ancient cities. These are massive, sprawling urban centers built entirely underground. The architecture is grand and imposing, constructed from dark basalt, deep slate, and reinforced deep slate. The streets are wide, lined with ruins of houses, small towers, and long corridors lit by the cold blue flames of soulfire lanterns. There is a haunting beauty to these ruins, suggesting that a highly advanced and organized civilization once lived here, far away from the sun. Why they chose to build their homes in the deepest depths of the earth remains one of the greatest mysteries of history. At the center of every ancient city is a colossal rectangular structure that dominates the landscape. It is shaped like a giant portal, framed by a material known as reinforced deep slate. This material is completely unique. It is so incredibly dense and tough that no pickaxe, no matter how sharp or powerful, can break it or harvest it. Some scholars believe this massive frame was indeed a gateway to another dimension, a door that the ancient people tried to open. Others suggest it was a monument to a powerful force, or perhaps a barrier meant to keep something terrible locked away. Whatever its purpose, the portal now sits silent and dark, surrounded by the ruins of the people who built it. If you study the ruins closely, you can find clues about the final days of this lost civilization. Throughout the cities there are large piles of grey wool blocks. Wool has a unique physical property. It absorbs sound waves, preventing them from travelling through the air. The ancient people clearly discovered this weakness in the skulk. They lined their streets with wool carpets and built wool barriers to muffle their footsteps. This indicates a desperate period of survival, where the citizens of these great cities were forced to walk in absolute silence, terrified of making a single sound that might alert the skulk sensors. It was a slow, agonizing struggle against an environment that was slowly consuming their home. Eventually, the silence was broken, and the ultimate horror of the deep dark was unleashed. This horror is the Warden, a creature that is not born of flesh and bone, but is instead a direct manifestation of the skulk itself. The Warden does not wander the caves like a normal animal. It sleeps deep underground, waiting. It is only summoned when an intruder activates the skulk shriekers multiple times, pushing the skulk network to its limit. When the warning limit is reached, the ground begins to shake, and the Warden slowly emerges from the stone, rising like a dark spectre to hunt down the source of the noise. The Warden is a massive, towering beast, significantly larger than a human. It has a muscular, blocky build with skin made of hardened skulk tissue. Its head is a smooth, eyeless plate, flanked by two large horn-like growths that twitch and move to capture sound. Because it has no eyes, the Warden is completely blind, relying entirely on its senses of hearing and smell to find its prey. Its most disturbing feature is its chest. The Warden's chest cavity is open, revealing a glowing, hollow ribcage filled with blue souls. If you listen closely, you can hear a heavy, rhythmic thumping sound coming from its chest. This is the heartbeat of the Warden, which beats faster and louder as the creature grows more agitated. When the Warden first emerges, it is in a state of high alert. It will stand still, tilting its head and sniffing the air to catch the scent of any nearby living beings. It then begins to search the area, walking with heavy, echoing steps. If an explorer makes a sound, such as running, jumping, or even drawing a bow, the Warden will hear it instantly. It will turn toward the noise, letting out a deep, warning roar that shakes the very deep slate beneath your feet. To survive an encounter with this beast, one must remain completely still, or use clever distractions like throwing snowballs or shooting arrows away from themselves to lead the creature in the opposite direction. If the Warden manages to locate an intruder, it attacks with terrifying speed and power. It is easily the most physically devastating creature in the Overworld. A single strike from its heavy arms can shatter the strongest armor and bring an end to even the most experienced explorer. It moves with surprising agility when angered, charging at its target with a relentless, unstoppable fury. Standard defensive strategies, like building a high wall or hiding behind a shield, are useless against its raw physical strength. Even if an explorer manages to escape to a high ledge or hide behind solid stone, they are not safe. The Warden possesses a devastating long-range attack known as the sonic boom. When it cannot reach its target physically, it focuses the energy within its glowing chest cavity. The souls inside its ribs flare with light, and the Warden unleashes a concentrated beam of acoustic energy from its mouth. This sonic boom travels instantly, piercing through solid blocks, armor, and shields to strike the target with immense force. It is a reminder that in the deep dark, there is nowhere to hide from the power of sound. The origin of the Warden remains a subject of intense debate among scholars. Some believe the ancient citizens created the Warden as a guardian to protect their cities from outside threats, using their advanced knowledge of redstone and magic to bind souls into the skulk. However, this creation may have proved too powerful to control, eventually turning on its creators and destroying the civilization it was meant to protect. Others believe the Warden is simply the natural immune system of the skulk itself, a biological defense mechanism designed to eliminate any living creature that dares to disturb the silence of the deep earth. It is a place of immense treasure, containing ancient magic, swift sneak enchantments, and rare echo shards. But the cost of obtaining these riches is unimaginably high. As you quietly slip away from the ruins and begin your long climb back to the sunlit world above, the heavy silence of the deep dark lingers in your mind. It is a stark reminder that some secrets of the Overworld are buried deep for a reason, guarded by a blind beast that rules the dark, waiting for the single sound that will bring it back to the surface.